We got Andy No reports from the Post-Millennial. Domestic terror charges for 5 arrested at violent Antifa autonomous zone near Atlanta. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation says it found explosive devices and gasoline at the raid. The reason this story is newsworthy is that it actually happened for once.
Yeah.
You know, if the law was being upheld as it's supposed to be, we wouldn't care to talk about another bunch of extremists getting arrested. They're supposed to get arrested.
Right.
Now we're like, wow, look at that. They actually arrested some of them. Right. Here's what I see happening. This is the point I was making just in the previous segment. A society is typically a cohesive one. Everybody kind of agrees on the lines you don't cross. When someone crosses that line, everyone is aghast and the cops are like, we're going to go in and deal with this. That meant obscenity laws 100 years ago. Yep. That meant someone could go out on a street corner and yell something nasty and they'd be like, no, stop this. And everyone agreed, not good. We've now gone so far in the other direction that you actually have people throwing Molotov cocktails. And in these cities, they're like, well, you know, it's their first offense. And look, we're going to lose votes if we actually prosecute these people. So let's let them all out of the prisons. Yep. Now, there's no enforcement at all. The American people, I mean, it's conservatives too. I mean, conservatives aren't going to go to cities and demand this stuff. So unless there was an actual ramification for not holding people to account, you know, or I should say there is no ramification for not holding people to account. So it's just not happening. This is the breakdown of the political body or of government or whatever you want to call it.
Though there people are being held to account if, for instance, they prohibit their children from being castrated. People are being held to account if they walk into the Capitol Rotunda with a horn hat on and crack a Coors Light. People are having the book thrown at them for that sort of thing.
Pro-life activists at abortion clinics.
Pro-life activists at abortion clinics, and just even exposing crimes, actual not just immoral activity, which is all that takes place at abortion clinics, but actual illegal activity. And then who's prosecuted? It's the pro-lifers. So the law is being enforced, and more than the law is being enforced against certain people. But, you know, you look at, say, the 19th century, early 20th century, and you always hear these horror stories of the Ku Klux Klan getting away with lynchings or terror rides or anything like that. And you say, well, they just didn't enforce the law. You know, that was, right. That is an imperfect expression of how the law is enforced. And you're seeing precisely the same sort of thing here.
It's cultural tolerance. Right now, our culture is completely tolerating Antifa. Conservatives and libertarian types complain about the violence, and then nothing else happens. There is no cost for a law enforcement division of any kind if they do not enforce the law. There is a cost if they do enforce it. When they come out and target Antifa, they can expect more firebombs and more violence. If they don't arrest anybody, what can they expect? Well, there will be some firebombs and violence from these lunatics they want to arrest, but conservatives ain't going to do anything about it.
Yeah, but you do see the law of nature take over when they firebomb Duane Reade, or when they go into Duane Reade and mob the store with a flash mob and rob, you know, $1,000 each so they can't get felonies in San Francisco where they made it you're allowed to rob.
$1,000.
And then Duane Reade shuts down. I think it's Duane Reade. Don't get me if it's not Duane Reade. I apologize.
I think it was Duane Reade. There's also,
a few of them.
I think, Target.
So you see the market is reacting to unchecked violence. It's not maybe it's not even the culture, it's the market itself, but that's part of the culture.
The mayor,
but it's like a law of nature.
The mayor, the chief of police, the sheriffs, they suffer no consequence.
No immediate consequence. It's a long-term thing where your city starts to fall apart because business is shut down.
The individual suffers no consequence at all.
Well, only that your environment begins to degrade slowly.
So what? They can move. So these cops who live in San Francisco, they're resigning, they're moving. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. And that is an issue of an individualized society. Yeah. When everyone just says, it's about me and my life, that's what happens. Yeah. When people put responsibility to the community slightly above themselves, you get someone going out being like, I gotta stop this because, you know, old man Jenkins down the street needs this Duane Reade for his medication. I can't let someone do this to the community.
But it's not why did this happen? Let's break this problem down, because I think it's fair to say that George Soros invested a lot when it came to appointing district attorneys and attorney generals all throughout the United States. You guys agree with that, right?
120 million.
So he again bought government to impose his will on what he thought was right, and his will is punishing right-wingers but letting Antifa go.
Well, for the most part, it's the non-enforcement. George Soros wrote an op-ed about how he wanted DAs who were not going to go after people and were going to give them lighter sentences. That's an inversion. I'm not advocating for harsh authoritarianism. So I actually think cash bail is a problem, but I don't know if we have the solution other than to expand, build more courts, hire more judges. But George Soros basically said, I want people who are in the DA's office who won't prosecute crimes. Well, you got it, and now it's getting worse.
Exactly.
But that's not using the government to do it. That's stripping the government of its ability to stop these people.
No. Because when the government sees a right-winger, when the government sees a political crime, when the government sees a way to punish someone for their political ideas, they do it. That's the government they're after.
If there are two,
but when it comes to specifically,
this is why we need to mind
You
meld.
made a point. I'm going to address your point, Luke. You made one point. Let me address it. If there's a left-wing and right-wing activist, and they both riot, they should both be arrested. What's happened now is half is being enforced, and politically biased, only one side is being let go. This is the government not enforcing half of it. And actually upscaling against the right.
And by the way, not to be too harsh, on the libertarian effect on the conservative movement, but a lot of the reason why the libs have become so good, specifically over the last 60 years, at wielding the government in a way that it was not very good actually at before. You saw the beginnings of it with Woodrow Wilson and FDR, but you still had a lot of conservative political power within the government. A lot of the reason why we're not good at it anymore is because the libertarians convinced the conservatives that wielding political power per se is wrong and immoral. And by doing that, we conceded the entire political field, and now the libs run all of the institutions.
The conservatives and Republicans being weak has nothing to do with libertarians. They decided that for themselves. They capitulated power. They're the ones that went along with a lot of this nonsense. They're the ones that are literally just the Democrats of 10 years ago. Let's be honest here. They're implementing the same policies. And if there ever is a political party that hasn't been working for the American people, that actually screwed them over and gave them failed promises,
you're right.
It's the Republican
Luke,
Party.
What's your opinion on redefining marriage, the Obergefell case, and the law that was passed yesterday, the quote-unquote Respect for Marriage Act, radically redefines a fundamental political institution?
I think
you're the libertarian.
I think it's a PR stunt in order to try to galvanize a base. Do you support gay marriage? I haven't even read the bill. I haven't even.
What about the concept in general?
I don't believe the government should. I don't think you need permission to marry someone to get a license from the government.
Well, you always have throughout all of human history. So how come now?
People, no, not always. People made bonds and specific contracts with each other without government sometimes as well.
No, that's not true. Marriage has always had a tie either to
through
the
religion
state or to the religion, which was usually established and had a tie to the state.
I'll make a single point.
Sometimes religion was more powerful than the state.
And let me address specifically.
But they're always tied together.
And I'll address specifically, pre-marriage, pre-no-fault divorce was a contract that you could not just break. If you entered into a contract with someone, you had a duty and responsibility. And if you wanted to break it, you had to prove to a court that was just reason to do so.
Right.
So a marriage meant something. The reason you had the government involved wasn't because they give you permission. It was because you were saying to another person, I give my life to you. I expect your life in return.
And it's a public act.
And if that person then decided, I'm not going to give you equal, like you're giving me your life, I'm not giving you back. You would have, Your Honor, courts, I need this enforced. And they would say marriage counseling, some kind of relationship counseling. Then no-fault divorce came in. And now we're in the period where marriage is basically a date. You're dating someone.
Something happened.
Because there's no enforcement anymore.
In the 40s, which I think is interesting. The reason why libertarianism is so popular right now is because in the 40s, America became a militant authoritarian country. It used to be a liberal republic, and then in 1949, when they created the liberal economic order, they became a military government, and they did it in secret. They didn't want people to know. Kennedy tried to out him to kill someone killed him. And
who is they?
So
I don't know.
For 70 years, we've been in a military government. It's like if you ever played Civilization, they had a revolution of government from liberty.
Deep state.
Yeah, and so what's happening is the anarchists are pushing back, but if you push back too hard, the pendulum goes extreme. You don't want extreme.
That's what statists do. Left and right, back and forth, more government, more government, more government. Listen, I grew up in Poland when there was still communism there, right? The Polish people are adverse to communists and to fascists, to extreme left and extreme right. This is essentially the larger ideas that are quantified in anarchism, in my opinion, because they push back a lot of this nonsense that feeds each other and builds on top of each other. And in Poland specifically, when it came to things like marriage, right? If someone would be divorced, if someone would not take care of their child after birthing a child, they would be looked upon as a scumbag. There would be social pressures on that individual.
There were also laws
for being a scumbag.
Poland's a very Catholic country.
Well, during communism and when the Soviet Union had control of Poland, it wasn't mainly the state that was enforcing a lot of these morals. It was the church that had a larger impact on that.
Well, the church was suppressed,
and the church was fighting the state. So,
right. But my point here is when I hear from our libertarian friends that the conservatives are actually the ones who are the Democrats from 10 years ago.
Is it not true?
No, it's not true. The libertarians are the ones who are pushing gay marriage, a view so left-wing that Barack Obama didn't even agree with it in 2011. They're the ones pushing drugs. They're the ones pushing open borders. They're the ones pushing all of the breakdown of the family.
Some are, but I'm not.
Some are, yes.
Yeah, those are issues that I had very strong stances against.
I think you unwittingly are pushing those things, but I don't think you intend to push those things.
I disagree because I addressed those problems. Specifically, what was the three that you brought up?
I guess the reason I bring it up is if you ask real conservatives, the real traddies around today, what's your view on marriage? They're going to give you the view of marriage that was held from the beginning of human history until 2015. If you ask their views on drug laws or on punishing criminals or on immigration enforcement or any of these things, you're going to get the conservative point of view. And it's going to be the libertarians and the liberals who agree on all of those issues in a very, very radical way.
I disagree. I think the ideology is directly opposed to each other. Liberals want more government. Libertarians want less government.
But
you're making an argument
is the same as what I'm saying because it's
not when the liberals use big government in order to impose their will on people,
when the libertarians use this fantastical utopian aversion to government to break down the social order and to break everyone down into individuals who are much more easily collectivized, which is what has happened.
Something you said brilliant. I don't know where you got this idea that the base unit of society is a duality. It's a communication between two or more people, a family unit. Yeah. One individual born in the woods with no humans is not a human. I mean, technically they're a human. They're not a person.
They're not a society.
Yeah, they don't understand language. They don't understand concepts of humanity. They don't understand. They're a wild animal if they're born in the woods.
Yeah, right.
Alone. Yeah. And so you need that second person. And I think to think of society as the duality, we cannot function without the duality because that's what...
Like the Matrix.
It keeps you sane. It keeps you humble.
It's the man and the woman.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. The Matrix. You see the fourth Matrix one they made?
I didn't know they went up to 4. I think I've only seen through 3.
I think it's funny because a lot of people said it was going to be like woke or whatever, but the plot of the Matrix is literally that you need a matriarch and a patriarch together to stabilize reality.
And not in a libertarian society, not only will two people keep each other sane and rational, but in a totalitarian society, two people will keep each other from falling victim to the state.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.